Hey everybody, it's Chad Warren. I hope you're doing well. Today is Saturday, April 5th, 2025, 6:43 a.m. Central Time here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I would like to welcome you to Rebel Renaissance Radio. And today we're going to focus on spaces that I attended last night. I was invited by Headless Giant on Twitter, and it was about astrology, and it was about the way that quantum physics merges with the zodiac, right? So when we're seeing the zodiac, the different signs, this also explains in physics a process of entropy, about how you got, water, fire, earth, air. Okay, so that's how things degrade, right? But then the part of physics that the Jesuits that control the miseducation system want to control is the part about, well, how does matter come into form from a metaphysical level, a place beyond matter? And the reason why they want to hide that is you would get all these amazing skills like free energy and also, the main way that the Dark Lords seek to centralize all the power is by secrecy in misinformation. So that when they talk about space, they're talking about, only the richest man in the world can go to space. But like Headless was pointing out, I don't know, was it Plato, Pythagoras, one of these people, probably Pythagoras, they were able to just look at the planets and notice their characteristics, like how much intensity of light, were there any color differences, any of these things. And by, actual natural education, where you're just piling one pattern recognition up upon the other, so that you start with very simple things. Well, even computers are that way, right? They're digital, just yes or no, and then all the sophistication comes out of that. But in my mind, the best story about that is the Dogon people of Africa that lived outside of Egypt and were like from some earlier group that immigrated away, but retained this secret knowledge that they are able to share with the tribe through a dance, and the dance reveals a sophisticated, I think is it the Sirius A and B moon travel that was only these planetary bodies weren't even discovered supposedly by mainstream science until the 70s. So atheists, they don't realize they're in a religion. To have a positive statement, there is no God, is the same as a positive statement that there is. So that's a good question. Why is agnosticism not more popular? Wouldn't that be the better place to start with? I don't know. Could be, maybe not. And it was pointed out in that discussion, which I've heard before, did you know that Christians were called atheists when they were new? Like atheist, or a priori, meaning one God. And this is an important concept because this is where the Catholic Church, in my opinion, it is evil, and specifically why is that the Orthodox Church had here's a priest, here's a priest, here's a priest, does this look like the zodiac? Yes, it does. Here's a priest, here's a priest. They're all co-equal, and they could say this priest is first among equals, not superior. But the priest of Rome said, "No, I'm the king. I'm superior. God's talking to me, and I'm telling y'all what to do." So, regardless of how evil anything is, it is a co-equal force of energy, and whether you're pagan or Christian, it's irrelevant because both talk about unconditional love, right? And so that's pretty funny because I think that concept in Christianity is tough because, like, oh, okay, so unconditional love is we're abandoned by God and we have to depend on this pathetic attempt to try to encapsulate the glory of everything within these religions and our petty understanding of those. That kind of a feeling is what I often had. And then the way universal or unconditional love, same thing, is discussed in this framework is about spirits and physics, so that you're talking about love causes car wrecks and all the terrible things because it's just here's all these different entities. Here's a bull, here's a farmer, here's a plant, here's a star, etc. All of those are doing whatever they're doing, and they have desires, they have attractions. And so obviously if we don't take that into account, there's going to be accidents and the chaos is going to become overwhelming. But an example of someone who can handle the chaos of change well isn't that Mercury? Yes, it is Mercury, because Mercury has an 88-day orbit around the sun, right? And so if we take the zodiac, which is like a dartboard of circle and these sectors for each house, because that's what constellations are visible in the night sky from this point at that time of year, then that's the logic of the personification of Mercury as the herald of the gods, because he's familiar with going to all these different places. And then that reminds me of my job working for DoorDash. What I like about it is it feels exhilarating to you're in a liminal space between here and there, and you can enter anywhere. If somebody was a spy or a terrorist, my goodness, all you got to do is put on a hat of one of these corporations, and you may as well be a spy, because that's how dumb people are. I wear that hat. Now, here's a funny thing. You when you do these food delivery jobs, you'll see other people doing them. Now, I'm the only one that I see. Now, I'm sure there's others, but I don't ever see them that do this. But I put the magnetic stickers that have the name of the company on the side of the vehicle, and I put the hat on. And I do that because it makes it more convenient for me and the people that I deal with. And if you want to call that being some corporate sellout nerd, okay. But my point is that it typically works so that I'm in the Wendy's or wherever, and without me having to go up there and talk to them, somebody's going to look up, bing. Do you have any idea how much money is spent to program those logos into your mind? Why would you not ride off of that action that this other person has already done for your own purposes? But then there'll be other people, you're talking about the other dashers. They're like, why are you wearing a hat? They're like, they think they're all smart. They're like, I like to hide. I don't want anybody to know. I'm embarrassed that I do this. That would be, you know what I mean? And to me, all of that behavior seems not intelligent. I mean, everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen, including all these mistakes. But I've always felt like an outsider. I don't even feel I struggle to fit in even with people that I do like, even these very outsider type of people. It's well, like, that's why I've chosen this marketing route to help with my favorite alternative media to promote it, because I have so many varied interests that I'm better at reacting, defensively to stuff that goes on, versus picking one thing and sticking to it. And of course, that's all, problematic too, to not have that discipline. So yes, I like to imagine myself like the Silver Surfer, going in between these worlds, and how I'm sure anybody that like the woman Kathy, and then Kobe, they're the two people I know up at the Kroger's by me in the self-checkout. That, don't ever be ashamed. I've been rich or poor, and I've worked basically menial jobs at retail and food service, despite having inherited money and also being homeless and all this. Don't ever feel ashamed at whatever position that you have, okay? That's the whole story of The Hobbit. Bilbo didn't see himself as nobody, even though he's just like me. I mean, I like to go on adventures that are much wilder than most people, but at the same time, I like to hang here at my hobbit hole where it's nice, and reading books and trying to be an executive, not only of my business, but of my vision of the world I see myself a part of. So don't be aware that if you hate your job, that's more about you. However you feel, good or bad, we are not at the actual fount of reality at the Godhead. We are at the level of perception. I can only receive that which I understand. If I don't have words or symbols or thoughts or experiences in the real world, then I don't even know what I'm experiencing. And that was discussed last night in episode 2 about be aware that there should be things that you're not able to find words for. See what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to just be that you're forgetful or tired or unintelligent. This is the problem of technology. We tend to think of technology in terms of computers, but learning these languages is a technology. And Headless has shared some speculation that language, that we come from some other place. This is not our home planet. and that these languages are perhaps programmed into us from some elemental forces that I guess could be universal or able to travel here and there much easier than us. Because one way he was pointing to that is the question of, well, when you study language, why is it that they all have this old English, new English, old German, new German? Well, my thought on that was, well, I think I watched this video series made in the 1970s by public television that's really good, and it is something like the history of English, and it was selling us on the idea that English is actually a universal language, right? So that is true, and it pointed out things like, think about it, any of these neighboring nations are going to have a potential for conflict, like between the Japanese and the Chinese, for example. So it's valuable to them when they're meeting in a diplomatic sense to speak in English. I mean, I can only speak from my super uneducated American perspective. I mean, I don't know Spanish, which would be the most logical. I did take a few years of German in junior high. Ich habe gern, or something. I like it. What was my Ulrich, I think, was my German name. But anyway, yeah, everybody else, they learn English so they can speak to each other as a universal language, which that's funny because that's like the Tower of Babel. So that tells you a lot there. So let me just kind of focus on the highlights from the episode. Let's go look at it here at Twitter. Now I'll show this first. What is this? This is how for some reason my Twitter is now showing these promotion buttons. I don't remember seeing them before. I did upgrade my Twitter account recently, but it's been a number of days, so maybe I'm just getting more interactions, and so they're trying to take advantage of that. That would make sense. That would be a good time to make that offer. But I was going to suggest this. To be honest with you, I'm pretty broke today, so I can't even afford this. I need to go DoorDash, but I'll be getting about $500 here from a mortgage payment for a house that I sold to some people. So I will do that when I can. But anybody can promote your favorite content creators. It says promote right there, right? So if you were to spend $10 for one day, this is saying that you would reach 2.3 to 5.4 thousand, and this is targeted at just North America. I just left the demo at the demographic at ages 18 to 55. It didn't matter the gender if we're trying to advertise a spaces about astrology. So this is my whole mission, is to empower the audience of these alt media content, because let's look at the biggest picture politically that I can think of, and it is this idea of government. Okay, government is the devil. Okay, because it's not possible. Here, I'll show you a book that espouses this philosophy. If I can find it. Oh, I just saw it yesterday. Where is it? That's aggravating. That is aggravating. Oh, I know. Yes. One of these days I'm going to get organized. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Government, the biggest scam in history exposed. Oh, are they doing the Mein Kampf Heil Hitler or the Roman pagan salute? They sure are. Oh, there's an American flag. Why is that happening? Because it was a Protestant minister who came up with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Are you Christian? What the fuck are you doing? Giving a ding-dang pagan salute. Now, I'm not saying any of those things are wrong, but y'all are telling me these are what your rules are. So, this is the problem with people walking around, it not as their individual identity or their family or their tribe, but they have to have this label. I'm an American. I'm a Ukrainian. People are just not aware of what they're talking about half the time, or 99.9% of the time. Paradoxically, the way to solve that problem is to get away from the state, the centralization. I do value English, right? English is a direct, it comes from this idea of the state. But you just have to understand, nobody's giving you anything from a state unless they think they can get more out of the deal than you can, right? So yeah, but then this is written by Etienne de la Boete. That's a pen name. That's a famous French, probably, Jacobite Enlightenment type of person. But the basic premise of why the state is the devil is because it is not possible to give a state any authority that you don't have on your own. Now, the only way to achieve that is if you destroy individuality, so that communism, the greater good, right? This is saying, here's all these people. They are having difficulty in regulating their differences. We need to have these experts at the top that are running this whole world, okay? That is a fake version, and this is where the pagans and the Christians are really on the same team, if they would just see it that way. That you're supposed to understand the zodiac. Chad Warren was born on this day and at this time, and this is what was going on with the moon and the sun and all of that, and that's going to affect that person for the rest of their life, because that's when they came off the galactic assembly line. So Christians are supposed to have God as their focal point. It's not about you, because if you want to access the spirit world, you have to understand this personality, Chad, and he's male, and he's got red hair, all those attributes. That's the package to the spiritual essence, the pearl of quintessence within, of which we are all a spark of the Creator's infinite consciousness. We're given that share. So you don't need to buy into communism like the Boston song I grew up as a kid. People living in competition. All I want is... People living in competition, but all I want is just my piece of pie. So it doesn't matter if you pick capitalism or communism. It's statism. It's, so don't think of utopia as for nutty liberals. No. The state is this computer that's figuring everything out. And the word utopia means no place. But if everybody believes that this place exists, then that will change reality. It's not going to give them what they think they're going to get, but it's going to change reality. So all that can happen through the consolidation, the centralization of power, is that it does exactly what it's supposed to stop, right? So let's say that you're a Democrat right now in America and you're very upset about Trump and Elon and how they're destroying the government, and you feel that this is against the Constitution, and you want to protect the Constitution and Americans from these oligarchs, right? Okay. Well, government it is supposed to protect against just the people that have the most power ruling, but it does the exact opposite, because and here's the trick. Yes, there are this cabal of evil people that think they're better than us and cause all these wars, and their whole job is to screw us over. But if you were to say they are the source of evil, you're incorrect. Again, we said this earlier. The Christians and the pagans agree that the evil is coming from God. God is love. Love in the pagan sense is just these different archetypal forces. And then that becomes science, right? We're talking about CERN and colliding particles, for the value of what can be researched in these subatomic reactions off of that. Okay, so I was just suggesting that you could spend $10 and promote the post of somebody that you think deserves it. So I want more people to be following my lead and demonstrate what marketing is. It's not about I'm trying to scam people out of money. It's that I'm trying to be a power broker. What positive change are you able to create in the world if all you do is debate on Twitter all day? Yes, I mean, that definitely is kind of like a maintenance aspect of tending our garden. And iron sharpens iron, the Bible would say. You want to, keep your tool of critical thinking and not being closed-minded. That's what a classical liberal arts education is about, to make you a more well-rounded individual through both your exposure to different points of view, but then your ability to go, that's cool, this sucks, and here's why, and form your own philosophy, your synthesis of the data that is gathered in science. So I need more cooperators and promoters and patrons of the arts and business science, So join me. It's the key to the decentralized world is to recognize when you're chosen. That if you have a desire and you feel it burn in you, that's your subconscious talking to you. And if you're Christian, it's God talking to you. Okay, so this is the event that I'm promoting. Hashtag The Future is Ancient, Planetary Magic and Astrology. And then let's go to that if we can. guess you could play recording or something.
Between you and these planetary bodies, you're going to have an imprint of that, right? So imagine these luminaries as sort of mirrors and between them and the sun, right? So one mirror would be the sun and one mirror would be the luminary, and this is why you have this sort of lensing effect between these two forces that kind of leave an imprint on the day you're coming into form. Am I making any sense here?
Yes.
Can I get some feedback, Mansion? Art, what do you got?
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. So I was just scrolling. It was really weird. I grabbed this book and I was like, I'm looking for something. So I picked it up and I flipped through some pages. It's from Dan Campbell. It's about Edgar Cayce on the power of colors, stones, and crystals. And I'm on this page that's talking about planetary vibrations, and pretty much everything that you just said was in this book. So it's kind of funny, like on this like exact page and stuff. But yeah, definitely vibing with what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the first time I was in this space. I know Headless from I came into this world as far as talking about alternative media because of Daniel Unafraid of End of Days Radio, who used StreamYard on his YouTube live streams to invite. He had a host of regular co-hosts that were fans of the show, so he would interview a guest for an hour or so, and then toward the end of that he would bring in this guest panel to ask any questions to give a wider perspective than what Daniel came up with. And then after the show, anybody that wanted to could jump up on the panel, and I think that's good. That's like how you see in the there was like a group of the Mormons went on to Salt Lake City, but a big group of them separated from them in Springfield, Missouri. So I forget what that group is called, but I grew up with some of these people, and I went to their church, and that's the first time I saw, oh, this is cool. They're doing this decentralized thing where each of them takes turns in the different roles. They don't even have, like, I'm the head priest. That's the correct thing to do. Oh, man, why was I talking about all that kind of space there? And I'm sorry if I'm talking quiet. It's like my roommates upstairs, you know, you can fart and hear everything about it both ways. It's just a good practice in diplomacy and tolerance. Oh, yes, so Art was talking about this Edgar Cayce book she is reading, and the thing that she shared that I liked was, let me find my notes here. It's about the color green, and yes, so I have here Venus is connected to the body. It connected to colors, which is then specifically to the thymus, and the color green, it has to do with love. So if you want to improve self-love, you could focus on that. And then she brought up something I think I've heard spoken of in different areas. But this is a problem that a lot of people have, being people pleasers, I think you would call it, to where if you treat other people with love, but you hate yourself, that's no bueno. That ain't helping nobody, right? So you need to address that. So this is the kind of Christians can have this, right, where they feel this guilt, and then they feel that if they help others, it is gonna help you experience love if you can't feel it for yourself. So that is good, but to recognize, that's like just survival thinking. desperation. It's not what I was learning here, jovial. That is like ever giving. That's somebody who is strong. They love themselves, they love others, and so they're overflowing in love. Let me think of any key concepts other than that I want to catch on. Let's go through here. Well, if you like astronomy and physics, you're really going to like all this stuff. So, and I don't understand, this is a general problem that I have. I can understand people that disagree with me, their point of view often, but they can't understand mine at all. And one of these things is astrology and science. I mean, it seems like only through some kind of prejudiced mind control could you even have these thoughts. I mean, it's like, does the moon affect the tides? Yes. Is it very well documented that if you go into any emergency room during a full moon that they're going to have an increase in crazy people? Yes, that's where the phrase lunatics comes from, right? So, I'm very hateful towards centralized anything, authority structures and academia, but I mean, the first thing I want to get a book of how do these Jesuits mind control people. Here's a shocker. They're too good at educating in a way that is subliminal, so that you ever heard of Sun Tzu? He's supposedly this emperor in China in like the 4th century. I can't recall who I heard this from, or I would shout them out, but so any business person, especially in the 1980s, the Gordon Gekko, Wolf of Wall Street mentality that took over when Reagan became president, much like Trump did today, was they were all tired of how this peace, love, hippie scam had turned into complete degeneracy and Charles Manson and a bunch of loser hippies. So they adopted this, I just want to have fun, just the same thing as the 70s, but more material based, Madonna, and by any means necessary. And Sun Tzu is a military strategist. And the famous one is keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Well, the really trippy deal is that these Jesuits, that went over to take over China, they go to take over everywhere. They're the colonizers that you're looking for. If you're on the left and you hate white people, no. You hate the Jesuits because they do stuff like this. The person telling the public that there's this Sun Tzu in the 4th century is a effing Jesuit because he made it up, because he knows he's smarter than the other people. Who's going to call him on it? Do you see what I'm saying? So that is what a pyramid scheme is. It's not me coming to you as a marketer and saying, hey, I'll show you how to make money with direct mail, right? Because whatever your offer is, your podcast, your personal business, whatever, it's going to stand out in this world where the internet is so dominant, because people can touch it in their hands, like that dollar down there. Look at that. They give you $1 and they put a note on there, Chad, stick with ABM, Paul. Here's a big important concept about metaphysics and physics and true value. That when you get that dollar in your hand, you're thinking, ooh, money, like what is that on SpongeBob SquarePants? Okay, so the value of the emotion When you're trying to get into business and you're working so hard to get your first dollar bill, there's interesting logic here. The company's giving you the dollar back, so it psychologically achieves the goal. I made money, right? But there's another way you can look at it. They're like, what? This is what we're talking about. When you have physical paper sent through the mail versus on the internet, it is so much more real and powerful to you. So I can put $1 in every one of these envelopes with that note, right? And it's worth so much more to me than the $1 I spent to touch somebody in their heart. And then they're going to link their love of money with me. So, yes, I do want to learn theurgy, ceremonial magic, but you're already doing it. You just don't know. And that is dark education. You are the Manchurian candidate. Don't come talk to me about what the government was doing, exposing everybody to acid, as if that is the origin of MK Ultra. Us learning to read and write was the origin of MK Ultra, yada yada yada. So that's what you learn from Dune. I said it yesterday. If you look at something and go, that's evil, it only is possible if you turn that finger around and you go, that's I have to have that in me to be familiar with going, that's what that is. So balance that. See outside of you the issue and then understand, that has to be there so I can see and hear. So again, God is the one responsible for all this evil, and it's to teach us what not to do. Right? What not to do is to pick sides on the left and right when it's really controlled by the person at the top that's doing this. You know what I mean? At the fulcrum, the vertex or whatever. And the way to get out of that chaos trap is to relax and understand that you need to change your behavior in order to change the world. That's what you have control over. So you should never feel that you're in an impossible situation. Okay, so that is the show. There's a zillion more things on there I could go into about that. But I think what I will do is shift over here to me. Okay, so here's two things. I will say this. The last part of the spaces does something that's very good. And I thought this app was registering my speech there because of that movement at the bottom. This is called CoStar, by the way. But what the hosts Art and Headless did that is like the main thing I'm trying to preach to you if you create content is knowledge does not set anybody free any more than this Bic lighter. It's a tool. Depends on how you use it. You have to apply knowledge, not yabber on all day as if you're God, and you're dictating reality to people. So all you have to do is what any textbook has done, as far as I know, and I don't care if they are all owned by George Soros and the Rockefellers to mind control us, they still have viable concepts in there because propaganda has to. And it's that you have to end your lesson by now go out in the real world and apply this. And what I'm telling you that you're going to want to watch this for is if you want to experiment with these magical, metaphysical concepts of alchemy so that it is described how you can get a Pyrex dish, a glass dish, and put that near a stream somewhere that's humid so that it gathers dew, and then you have to collect it before the sun comes up. Okay? And then if you drink that water, it is a memory device for light, and it will record what was going on in the astrology at that day, that moment, right? And so, like, you would want to do it at different days based on what was up there, and you could have a collection of these waters for different purposes, and they're going to affect you. And then you can even, then he was mentioning it. This is a newer thing. There was Dr. Emoto was how I first heard about this concept, that he had recorded that water stores whatever is in it, like emotions, so that if you directed hate towards the water, it would have a pattern that looked hateful, and if you love and classical music has these harmonious patterns. Well, evidently there's this newer story about this woman. I'm sorry I don't know her name, but evidently you could like put, I guess, like an object like a Bic lighter in there, and then take it out, and then if you were to freeze it, you would see the astral, part of the. It's like the cosmic blueprint of the object is recorded and stored in there, frozen supposedly. But that would be something to experiment. But with this water would be something to experiment with. And then let's look at here. So this will demonstrate me trying to figure out what is going on. Okay. So this is matching what was discussed last night. Eros. All about Venus and love. And I will say that was an interesting part about it, about in the story of the gods and goddesses. I suppose, is Aphrodite the same as Venus? Both represent love? I don't know. But so what happened was, this woman goddess that was this love was kind of a shocking, not intended thing. And that reflects, like I was saying earlier, that we tend to think of love as positive, but we all know that, in reality, love is dangerous. And certainly today there's all these people like myself that would like to be married, but don't trust other people or themselves. So everybody's like, yeah, I'm celibate now, and it's like, yeah, you can be smart enough that you got idiocracy. If you get smart, you start realizing this is complicated, but then you don't want to have kids. But then think about it. All these stupid people are having kids. And then people like me, I do have a kid. He's 15. Do I want him to be surrounded only with these stupid people? No. And I don't mean that to be hateful. I understand that's my own limitations, my perception and projection. But I mean, and they, the ones that I call stupid, they can't stand dealing with me. Why do you have to question everything? Can't you just go along to get along? All right. Introducing Eros. Find new ways to express affection. Okay? And see the larger picture of your relationship. And understand how you each operate. And learn to open up to each other. Oh, and that's going to make me depressed. I don't have a partner. Oh. This is marketing, right? So they're taking you straight from the concept of love. Now go do it. Right? That's good. That's doing what I'm saying. So this is a way to invite your lover. That's good, though, right? And so this is why I'm trying to teach marketing, because it's psychology, right? Which that most often is used incorrectly to manipulate people against their awareness. But if you de-occult it and learn how it is, well, then you're doing somebody a favor, because all of us are going to be afraid to cross certain thresholds. You know, like I know this person that I'm talking with, and they, in my opinion, have a lot of value to share in that they are, know all these books, but they just want to go here. And then everybody's, I'm sure, thinking like I am, I don't have any time to read. Would you want me to look at this whole person's collection? That's not how you do it. You're going to have to learn marketing. You should be rejected. I will be rejected because I go on for so long, right? So then I have to make another short of what I just made that becomes like the advertisement. Tonight at 7, Chad Warren's going to talk about this and that, but the boom. 30 seconds, you're done. That's what I have to do. That's what everybody has to do. So if you're somebody that knows all this stuff and you think it's valuable and you don't understand why other people don't appreciate that value, it's because of you. It's not because of them. Or if you do want to address the issues that other people have, you're going to have to know yourself better. And that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to start thinking, how can I be as authentic as I am now, but reach more people? That was part of the discussion last night, is that you have to both balance all these forces, but then this, I think it was this jovial nature, is it, that is connected with finding quality time? No. Is this kairos? Is it kairos, I think? It is personified as a man that is bald, but has like hair coming out the front and hair coming out the back. And in my mind, that's something about time. You can't change that you got to do these things, but you might be able to pull this event closer from there to now, and you might be able to put this one from now to there, the front and the back of time. You're going to have to wrestle it. And so we'll go back there. Now imagine if we had an app. That's another goal that I have. So think about that while we're looking at this. What app would you want to make? What if we had an app for a decentralized alternative media based community that does this applying of the knowledge, but those acts of applying the knowledge, like how I'm making this blog post based on my reaction to this show, which any of you could do and should do, then that's going to create an intentional community, right? And that's what has happened, because Daniel and Afraid got me on In Today's Radio, and then I met all these other people, and then you're naturally going to kind of stay in each other's orbit in cross promotion. Which, if you have this prejudice about Jews run the media, well, we're all experiencing how that occurs now. It occurs naturally that if you get ostracized, then you're going to clan up with your people. So be aware of the good and bad of that as you start to develop these networks. On the one hand, you do want to support each other, but you don't want to do it the way you see. Now this is changing, but the way this dark side of the in my opinion, the Jews are the best and the worst of humanity. They have a real dynamic range, but the dark side is that like Hollywood, where they're such a clan, such a tight-knit pseudo family, that it is organized crime, so that everybody is scared to death to offend any of these powerful people that run this collective, right? That's why you have these liberals that are scared to death to offend some group to the point that it is too tolerant and considerate of the group versus the individual. Today you feel torn between tough love and self-care. It's good to take your time if that's what you need. Just make sure you're not doing that thing where you undermine yourself and then convince yourself that you're not good enough. Okay? You learn more from failure than from success. Yeah. So see, tough love. You know, like that's what I'm having to deal with my son, because I said this yesterday in the video. My ex-wife left me. She didn't give any reason, and that's just the same thing Elon Musk is dealing with. That's the global situation that we're in, is that now women are promoted to act horrible, and the rest of us just have to go along with it. Just like that's why people supposedly left the old world of Europe, is because these kings could do no wrong, and that was seen as somehow what's best for society, is to not, to have some kind of authority that people can't fight and don't fight. And so that's where you get this men versus women. Who's on top? Is the woman going to peg the man, or is the man going to peg the woman? It's not good. I'm not trying to get into your sex life, but that's a dark use of all that sexual energy. I'll stop reading this after this. What you should do are bow ties, belt buckles, and hardware. That sounds like some conservative values. Don't do blurred lines, stasis, and fool's errands. Stasis. That's something about being stuck and dead or something, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a real conservative day is what I'm getting. Don't waste your energy either being stuck or too far out. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Any feedback that you do have is welcome, and I hope that you do check out these spaces, and please share with me what I should check out next, and I look forward to applying the zodiac as a way to balance myself and my relationship with others. And I hope to get a telescope. So in addition to the app that's so cool, I forget the name of it, that you can see all the constellations. But yeah, I would like to look at the stars myself more. And then I think more realistically, the things that I could do most directly would be to get back into earth grounding and sun gazing at the moment of when the sun comes up. There's a window until about 9 or so that the angle of it is such that it's not too much light to look at. And the same thing, you've probably experienced being out on the ocean or the beach or something at the end of the day and watching that sun go down. You can look at it all at that time, of course. And what that does is it has the solar wind, like the aurora borealis, and these ions are going into your eyeballs. And then if you are barefoot on earth, or stone and all that stuff, or you can buy these mats when you're sitting at the desk and plug it into the neutral socket of the AC electrical socket, and that will ground you as well. And you can even have shoes that have copper in them that touch your foot in the ground. But that is going to also allow there to be ionic flow in between you and the earth. And so everything we do that's artificial, we pay a price for. Just if you know that, is going to help you. It's just kind of like you got to admit that you're an alcoholic first in order to, that's the key to getting help. But all this ignoring it, that's when the things become a problem. But in terms of metabolic function, that increases that, meaning, well, it reduces the amount of metabolism that your body has to turn food into energy. So the way that our lifespan works has to do with DNA and these things called telomeres, so that basically you are like a candle burning, right? Just like this candle burning, and you only have so much light in fuel before you're gonna die. Okay? And so the better your metabolism is, because you don't eat too much food and you exercise so that your body becomes more efficient, and you do things like the earth grounding and all of that stuff and yoga and blah blah blah, that is the most scientifically founded way to extend your life on this earth. That is it. Thank you very much.